Hello everyone, this is Pre-Calc lesson 47. We're going to talk about vertical sinusoid translations and arctangent. So we remember typically in a regular vertical translation, if we start with y equals x squared, it looks like this, right? If we want a vertical translation, then it comes with the y. So we do y equals x squared, let's say plus k. That means that we would move up k units, like so. Vice versa, if we had x squared minus k, we would move down k units. The shape of the graph stays the same, but we move up, we move down. Now I always relate it back to y equals x squared because it's the very simple graph that we know, so we're able to recognize it. Is there a bad glare? Okay. So the same thing applies if we have vertical sinusoidal translations. So we remember that we just talked about our sinusoids, right? Our cosine and our sine. And now we're going to talk about how we vertically translate them. Okay, so let's go back and look at our regular graph. Y equals the cosine of theta. We know it goes through 1, 90, 180, 270, 360. I'll do sine in radians so that we can get more used to radians. So here we'll have pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Now we know cosine at 0 is 1, at 90 is 0, 180 is negative 1, 270 is 0, 360 is 1. Sine 0 is 0, pi over 2 is 1, pi is 0, 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, and 2 pi is 0. So we remember that these are our regular sine and cosine graphs. Okay? Now, let's look at a graph that has been translated up. Okay? So, I'm going to draw the graph for you. Now, what your book does is they don't leave an x and y axis. Okay? That is incorrect. When we get to the point when we are drawing sinusoids ourselves based off of an equation, we have to draw the x and y axis. I'm going to draw it how your book draws it now so that you're able to get used to it, but I'm going to show you later how that is incorrect. Okay, so we look at this first graph, okay, and we see that this center line here is 4. What that shows us is we've had a vertical translation up of 4. So we will have y equals 4 plus something sine of theta. Right, now I know it's a sine of theta because at 0, our function is 0. Okay. Then we have to look at our amplitude. Remember, our amplitude is the distance from our center line to our max, our center line to our min, and that distance is 2. We put the 2 in front of your sine, and that is the equation of that sinusoid. Okay, let's do another example. So we first look and see here, is it going to be a sine or a cosine graph? And we know it's going to be a cosine graph because at 0, we are not going through 0. So we have y equals something cosine theta. Now we can look at our amplitude, the distance between here and here. We know that that distance is 3. So we will have a 3 here. And we also know that this center line is -8, so this is a -8. Okay, that's the equation of our function. Okay, always first determine if you're using sine or cosine, and then you can determine the amplitude and the center line. All right, now let's talk about arctangent. Arctangent, we remember from that chart I gave you, I think it was like lesson 32, is restricted to the first and the fourth quadrants. Okay? So what we know is when we have arctangent, right? Arctangent is trying to find an angle for us. Okay, so let's just do an example. I think this is example 3. Okay, we want to find the arctangent of tangent of 135. Okay, so we first look at tangent of 135. You draw your graph. 135 is over here, and I know that that leaves me with a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And the tangent of 135, we know, relates the tangent of 45, which is 1, except for all students take calculus. We know that this is negative because we're in the second quadrant. So now we're looking at arctangent. We're taking the arctangent of -1. Okay? And we know that arctangent is only in the first and the fourth quadrants. So if this is negative, we must be in the fourth quadrant because all things are positive in the first quadrant. So that tells me I have an angle down here, which is -45. Okay? Now, the reason we write it as -45 and not a 300 something number is because arctangent, we know, is in between -90 and 90. So we want this angle to be in between -90 and 90. That angle is our answer. Okay, let's do another one. Arctangent of tangent of 225. It's just like we were doing before when we had arcsine and sine. Okay, we're just using tangent now. So let's draw 225, puts us over here. This is 225, and again we have 45 in here, 45, 45, 90 triangle. So the tangent of 225 is the same as the tangent of 45, which again is 1. And it's positive because all students take calculus, tangent of 45 is positive there. Which means arctangent, so now we have the arctangent of 1, has to be in the first quadrant because it's positive. So it gives us 45. Okay? It's really important with arctangent, you remember its restricted range. Okay, and it's also really important that you remember the base graphs for sine and cosine. We're going to be building on this a lot through the rest of your year. All right, that's all for the lesson for now, so we will see you later.